who don't enjoy access to regular food, regular water, etc. And I think that's particularly poignant while we're gathered here in Islamabad with representatives from across the world, that there are people in all our societies, but particularly in Pakistan, who are facing incredibly difficult times at the moment. And absolutely, as foreign minister of this country, I should be able to admit, and I am ready to accept, that a lot of those difficulties are of our own making. Some mistakes that we, as the collective we, that as far as economic policy, etc., may result in. I often, in our speeches to Parliament, we refer to one of the former government's decisions. But at the same time, we're also facing, they're also facing the economic consequences of certain decisions that are also outside our control. And though that is true for people in my country, and that's true for people in your country as well. For example, we are facing the consequences of this devastating climate catastrophe, and the people who are suffering as a result of that didn't necessarily play such a role in the climate crisis that resulted in this catastrophe. That's the same for many people in your country, especially the younger generations, who are facing the consequences for decisions and actions of others. There's conflict, or there's the consequences of the COVID pandemic, which all of us are still facing today. The economic consequences of the COVID pandemic that has had economic consequences for my country and every single country sitting here today. And then obviously there's the heightened geopolitical context that we live in at the moment. And as a result of that, a lot of people in my country and in a lot of countries represented here today are facing the consequences of decisions that others are taking. The point being that, while obviously we have to work together to address all these issues, we're reminded in this particular month that the consequences of our actions affect those that are perhaps not as empowered as we are. And therefore, when we have a responsibility or a position through which we can affect the lives of the less fortunate, it has always been our effort, and I believe it should be our collective effort, that as minimum the burden could possibly be that we place on the bottom of the pyramid. And sitting on that table over there is the Federal Minister for the Benazir Income Support Program, Ms. Shazia Murray. And I must commend and compliment her personal efforts, but obviously the efforts of her institution. The first and only social safety net in Pakistan, the Benazir Income Support Program, provides economic support to the poorest of the poor, and particularly the women folk of the poorest of the poor. And we've seen time and time again how this institution has served us during the COVID pandemic, when we had no ways or means to get finances out there for those who were the most impacted. The Benazir Income Support Program, which is assisted by many countries sitting here today, was a key tool in achieving that goal. Once again, when the floods came, first during the rains and then it extended out through the floods, the most effective means to get direct support to the most vulnerable was through the Benazir Income Support Program. And while we're facing challenges at the moment, and our finance ministry is still engaging with the IMF and other international financial institutions, while we still have the monumental task of reconstruction and rehabilitation for those affected by the floods, this government is going to consistently try, within the space that we have, to ensure that our policy benefits as much as we can the bottom of the pyramid, the least fortunate, and those far removed from the chaotic politics of the everyday politics of Islamabad, they're really facing challenges today, our own challenges, and those challenges that, as a result of course of events, we're facing today. So I thank you all for joining us here in the Foreign Ministry. I'm extremely grateful for the support that has been given to Pakistan in this difficult time. Our friends from across the world have stood with us during the COVID pandemic in providing vaccines and other support during the flooding, during the climate catastrophe, the way the entire international community banded together to support the people of Pakistan, and even now in our difficult economic times that we are facing. I'm incredibly grateful to each ambassador present here today, who in their personal capacity, in their official capacity, I know continue to fight the case for Pakistan. So thank you everybody, thank you very much for joining us here today, and I will now return to our seat and not come in the way of you and your iftar. Thank you.
وزیر خارجہ بلاول بھٹو زرداری افطار ڈنر سے خطاب کر رہے تھے. اسلام آباد میں مقیم تمام سفارتکاروں کے اعزاز میں یہ افطار ڈنر کا اہتمام کیا گیا وزارت خارجہ میں. وزیر خارجہ بلاول بھٹو زرداری نے اس موقع پر تمام دوست ممالک کا شکریہ بھی ادا کیا جنہوں نے مشکل وقت میں پاکستان کے ساتھ دیا.